Hi, and welcome back. Got one bit of housekeeping I got to take care of. I'm going to ship that off so we can get the segment titles uploaded to our website with titles just as quickly as possible. Got a lot of people that depend on the segment titles being posted on our website, another way to access the content, and off they go. So you can go to our website, afr.net. You can see the video segments as soon as they're in the can. We get them posted with the title on them. You can watch them there, afr.net. Don't forget, we've also got audio and video streaming at afr.net, live audio and video streaming. We have apps for the iPhone, the iPad, and the Android. We have podcasts, a lot of different ways you can access the content. One other comment here on the McDaniel-Cochran race. This is a piece by Dana Criswell. She said this about the Cochran-McDaniel race. And again, this has to do with the fact that Senator Cochran is in his mid to late 70s, just doesn't have the energy and the verve that he had when he was a younger man. This is what Dana Criswell says. I've not watched many campaigns and elections as closely as I have this year's Mississippi senatorial race, but from what I've seen, there has never been a campaign run almost exclusively without a real in-the-flesh candidate like this one with Thad Cochran. It's really kind of sad and shameful that the Republican Party is willing to use someone like they have Thad Cochran. In other words, her point of view is it looks like the GOP establishment is taking advantage of Thad Cochran. They are using him. Here was a guy that really did not want to run for re-election. He was ready for retirement. That's what he wanted to do. But a lot of these ruling class Republicans, apparently Chris McDaniel scared them to death, and so they convinced Thad Cochran to run for re-election, even though his heart is not in it and his body may not be up to the challenges. She goes on, it's no secret that Thad Cochran is tired and had planned to retire at the end of his current term. This campaign has not been about Cochran defending his record or his vision for Mississippi. What we have seen is a man who had difficulty remembering a reporter he met just 30 minutes earlier. We have seen a tired politician who couldn't focus long enough to discuss an issue, and we've watched handlers manipulate him and hide him from the public. It is as if the Republican Party is running a campaign with a cardboard cutout of a candidate they wish existed. Now he is being dragged around the state, humiliated because he can't keep the pace required to run a campaign, and his final act as a politician is to be rejected by the state he represented for the last 42 years. It's really quite shameful that the party leaders care more about themselves and their careers, and I might add, their political power, than the honor and dignity of Thad Cochran. That's an interesting perspective. All right, let's go to the phones. Let us go to Stephanie in Texas. Stephanie, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon. God bless y'all.
Thank you, and God bless you.
This is hard to say because I want to cry. We were in the Air Force for almost 15 years. My husband worked in satellite communications down in Cape Kennedy and over in the Azores, because to help keep the satellite in sequence and in sync so that they could watch over our country and protect it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a comment to anybody that'll ask me to this day that if, as much as my children and I loved my husband and would have given our life for him, I would not want Obama to do what he did with Bergdahl, whether my husband was a traitor or not, because like God gave his one son for all of us, that was one enough. And if my husband had to die instead of millions and millions of people being in jeopardy like this president has done, and we don't call him for impeachment, they're all crazy. But if my husband would have had to die, I would have told Obama flat out, I would have gone to Washington if I had to crawl and said, don't do it.
Well, Stephanie, it's interesting that you say this. We had another, I guess I was watching one of the parents of somebody who died trying to rescue Bergdahl. And this parent said, look, I know that if it had been my son who was in the hands of the Taliban, he would have said to President Obama, do not trade me for these 5 guys. I don't want to be traded. I would prefer to live. I'd love to live. I'd love to come back to my country, to my family, but it's not worth it. I would rather lay down my life than see these 5 Muslim terrorists released from Guantanamo Bay where they can endanger the lives of American citizens. And that's exactly the same kind of sentiment and passion and conviction that I hear in your heart, Stephanie.
Correct. For one thing, my daddy worked in the munitions plant before I was born. I was born just a year before that. And he wasn't able to go to work that day, and the whole thing blew up. He had what they now call post-traumatic stress disorder, I think, because he had a guilt thing because he was the only one that didn't get killed.
Wow.
And I've had friends that came back from Vietnam. I've had friends in every military division you can think of, except for the Coast Guard. And I have had relatives. And like I said, one life is not worth billions unless it was Jesus Christ. And I know that my husband wouldn't have wanted that. I know that Bobby and the Marines wouldn't have wanted it. I know that Paul would not have wanted that. And he was in the last war, the World War. I know that none of them would have stood for this.
Yeah.
And it's what he's already done to our veterans. There's people like me that a lot of people don't know this about the military unless they've been in the military in a high-ranking situation. Not ranking so much because my husband wasn't high-ranked, but he was working in security. Do you know that there's women like me that have to change their name after they lose their husband and they lose their benefits from the military? Like I had to go back to one of the reasons I went to my mother's maiden name because I could still be in danger because when Ed went overseas, when he went overseas, he took me aside and he said, "Baby, I want you to know not to talk to anybody down here at Patrick Air Force Base that you don't know well, even if they're enlisted. And when you go across the highway to the beach, don't let the kids or you be around anybody that you don't know because they could kidnap you for secrets."
Well, and I appreciate your call so much, Stephanie. I want to thank you and your whole family for your service. And, what you're hearing from Stephanie is, part of the loyalty and the patriotism and the love of this country that Americans have deep in our DNA. And I think a lot of us have a question about whether that love and passion and commitment to this country exists in our commander-in-chief. But you hear Stephanie, she's willing to give up the life of a husband, the life of a loved one, if it will protect other innocent lives. That's how much she loves this country, how much she loves the cause of freedom. It's been said about soldiers who go into battle that they go into battle not because they hate what is in front of them, but because they love what is behind them. They want to protect them. They want to defend them, and they are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice in order to do that. And meanwhile, thank you, Stephanie, very much for your call. And, you think about this Bergdahl, they found some confidential documents. James Rosen, Fox News, found these confidential documents, secret reports compiled by an independent contractor who worked for the U.S. Central Command. So these guys weren't yahoos. These guys were experienced at collecting this kind of intelligence. They'd done it for the United States military, and they tracked Bo Bergdahl in captivity, and they discovered that he converted to Islam while he was being held by the Taliban and even declared himself to be a warrior for Islam. So Bo Bergdahl converted to Islam, declared that he himself was a warrior for Islam. He became buddies with his Taliban captors. He played soccer with them. He took AK-47 practice with them. They allowed him to carry a loaded gun. He wasn't considered to be a threat. And these real-time dispatches were generated by the Eclipse Group, which is a private firm of former intelligence officers and operatives that has subcontracted with the Defense Department and prominent corporations to deliver granular intelligence on terrorist activities and other security-related topics. And by the way, we now know that this was not the first time that Bo Bergdahl had wandered off post. He'd done that before, even when he'd been stateside. And James Rosen said, look, the sources he's consulted indicate that Bo Bergdahl was a serious collaborator, that his collaboration with the Taliban was as serious as you can imagine. So what President Obama did is he traded one warrior for Islam for 5 warriors for Islam. Let's go to Keith in Ohio. Keith, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Thanks for calling, Keith, and thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Real quick. Thanks for taking my call, Mr. Fisher.
Yes, sir.
Obama, I'm so tired of Obama getting away with pretty much murder, and it's going to go a little bit further now because those guys, 5 guys, are going to end up on the battlefield taking the lives of our soldiers, our Marines, and I don't want any other, no family should have to go through with what our family did when my brother was killed over in Iraq in 2005.
I'm sorry to hear that.
10 years in the Marine Corps, and he loved this country. He loved what he was doing over there. And it's a slap in the face to our military people, the military families, and it saddens me that where's our congressmen and our senators standing up to this man? And that's really all I got to say. I'm really, it's aggravating.
Well, I hear what you're saying, Keith, and I think your agitation, we're just heartsick over this. I'm heartsick over this. You have more reason than most to be just heartsick over this because you've lost a loved one, a brother, to combat in this conflict that we're in the middle of. And to me, it's just unconscionable. Lindsey Graham, it's fine that he's saying, look, if President Obama does it again, we're going to impeach him. Well, how many times does this have to happen? If the next one is an impeachable offense, why isn't this one an impeachable offense? I mean, these are the worst. This is the dream team for the Taliban. You can't release anybody that's more of a threat to our national security than these 5 guys. If this is not an impeachable offense, what in the world would be? Focal Point AFR Talk, back after the news.